Hello, Acting Mayor. We're just bringing everything up online here. We'll be going live in a moment.
Perfect. I know we're a few minutes early. Hopefully by then I can have my necklace untangled.
We're ready in here, Acting Mayor, when you are.
All right, I see it is right at 7:30, 1:30. I'll be 7 in the afternoon already. So I will call us back to order, and we are coming back from recess from our earlier closed session. Mr. Westerson, if you'd like to start again with a roll call to see who all is in the meeting.
Certainly. Councillor Carlson.
Present.
Councillor Dodick.
Present.
Councillor Middleton Hope.
Present.
Acting Mayor Croson, pardon me. Excellent.
I'm here as well. I see.
Online, you have Councillor Campbell, you have Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel in the room, as well as Councillor Palladino. Mr. Brierley is here as well. Ms. Hilford and Mr. Sarsfield from our office, and several other members of administration and of the public. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Westerson. So I will start with the acknowledgement statement, and then we'll get right into the agenda. The City of Blackbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So we start with the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion by Councillor Dodick that the agenda of the regular meeting of the Governance Standing Policy Committee on May 26, 2022 be adopted as presented. Mr. Westerson, are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are not, Acting Mayor.
In that case, I'd call a question.
Councillor, question's been called. All in favor? Perfect. So that passes unanimously. We move then to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is being moved by Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Governance Standing Policy Committee held on Thursday, April 28, 2022 be approved and the chair and clerk designate be authorized to sign the same. And further be it resolved that the status of initiatives 2022-05-26 be received as information. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Chairman Croson, or Chair Croson. Any questions from my colleagues? Seeing none. A couple of questions, or at least one, if I can, on the status of initiatives. Some of the date of returns are listed as TBD, and I noticed that some of them are at least 2 years since they were referred. So I'm just wondering how we're going to move those along from TBD to an actual expected date of return.
I was just actually going to ask Mr. Westerson if we could actually bring that forward to our next agenda meeting for governance to perhaps bring back to our colleagues a better understanding of some of those and a better understanding of what they are, to see if governance still thinks these things are something we want to work on and to prioritize. So if that works for the committee, that would be my suggestion to deal with some of that status of initiatives.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. So with that, unless there's anything further, I'll call for the vote.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor? Okay, consent agenda moves unanimously, which moves us down to our agenda items. We have nothing on the presentations, but we jump to submissions. And we have back again this month the proposed electoral ward system conceptual plan. As it is a submission, no presentation, we will move to see if there is any members of the public who wish to speak on this. Mr. Westerson, do you have anyone listed so far? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak?
We do. We have 2 members of the public that have indicated they're here to speak. I believe Mr. Hirath is up first.
Okay, just a reminder, as you come forward, you have 5 minutes to present, and afterwards you may get questions from members of the committee and our colleagues. Welcome, and please go right ahead once you're settled.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and councillors, committee members, and staff. I sent a submission to the clerk, giving my feelings for a proposed ward system. And Bonnie had encouraged me to attend and maybe answer a few questions or make a few statements. I came from living on a farm in the county of Warner most of my life, where the municipal governments have a ward system. And so I've been used to being represented by an elected representative, both in municipal, province, and of course federal government. And the rural municipalities in Alberta are a wide variety of municipalities. The county of Warner only has 3,000 people and 6 councillors on a ward system. County of Lethbridge is 12,000 people with 7 wards. The county of Strathcona has 100,000 people and has a ward system. It seems to me that you know, a ward system is really good for the public, gives the public someone to connect with, someone to hold accountable. With an at-large system, it seems to me that you know, I might be dealing with different councillors all the time, and it's very difficult to hold someone accountable, and it's kind of hard to know who to reach out to in a ward system where, or in a at-large system, where in a ward system you know that person that's in your ward is your representative. So I just kind of would close at that. The important thing, it looks to me like, with the clerk that had given you some background timelines and roles and responsibilities, that in the paperwork that you've received, that this electoral ward system commission is something that needs to get started to have the public, a public group of people appointed by the city to get started with it, and then the city would, you know, at the end say yes or no to proceeding with the ward system. So I just close at that, and if there's any questions, I certainly will try to answer them.
Helps. So I unmute myself. Thank you very much, Mr. Hierath. We will be doing questions after all the speakers, so there may well be some colleagues.
Thank you.
I understand from Mr. Westerson that our next speaker is a man named Jeffrey Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman, are you present?
He's here. He's indicated he's not desiring to speak.
Ah, okay. Maybe he's scared of being in the public. That could happen. All right. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak?
No one from our point of view.
Okay. We will then move to questions. If there are questions from any members of the committee or councillors who are present.
There are no questions in the queue, Acting Mayor.
Okay. With that, then we move to the resolution, and we have Councillor Middleton Hope has a motion brought forward.
Acting Mayor, Councillor Carlson just jumped into the queue.
And sorry, it's not a question for any of the presenters. I appreciate the documents provided and being here today, but the question was for Ms. Hilford, if I can. There was a revised ward system presentation. Was it revised since the last meeting? I wasn't sure if we were getting a revised presentation today, or if the presentation from the last meeting was the revised one, or if it was revised just for our information.
Thanks for the question. The presentation that I did at the last meeting was not in your agenda, so it was attached to the agenda for this meeting. However, it was revised, and what was revised was the recommendation on the back page only, and it should be bolded.
Yes.
It's on the back page.
Thank you.
And Ms. Hilford, that recommendation is included in the motion that we are bringing forward?
It is. It should also be on the front cover of your report, and bolded is the revised version.
Perfect, thank you. So we will then move to the motion and to debate or conversation around it. So I do have a motion by Councillor Middleton Hope on electoral ward system framework to examine and implement. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council proceed with the analysis, engagement recommendation, and implementation phases as identified in the 2025 Electoral Ward System Conceptual Plan, Attachment 1, approving a one-time budget of $257,000 as follows. $250,000 from 2019 to 2022 N87, implementation of governance review recommendations, and $47,000 from Governance Standing Policy Committee BAU budget. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been a discussion that I think most of us have been engaged with, either as council members, committee members, or with members of the public since the election back in October. I think we've all had a good opportunity to read the very fulsome report that Ms. Hilford has authored, and thank you for that. We've got a proposed budget to move this forward with a closer examination, and I request that my fellow council members and committee members vote in favor of this to move this forward to council as a whole. Are there any questions? Are we prepared to debate? Still nothing.
Is there anyone else, committee or colleagues, who have anything to say on the motion? Knowing that only the committee members can vote, the others, of course, can debate.
Madam Chair, Councillor Dodick and Councillor Carlson are in the queue for debate here.
Okay, Councillor Dodick.
Thank you. Just a few quick questions. In the actual motion, it's got BAU budget, and budget is struck through. So should that just be removed? I don't understand why that's in there if it's, yeah. So if we can remove the word budget, that would.
If I may?
Yep.
Sorry, thank you. That was the original motion that I had in the report, and we were just showing what had changed, so.
Correct, but if we're actually making a motion, we don't need the struck out word budget is what my assumption is. Thank you. How much is in the BAU?
Not sure if Mr. Matthews is online, but I thought there was around 400,000. There was 250,000 that was there when we were to implement the governance standing policy structure. Clerks did that in-house, so that's why there is a big surplus right now. The annual operating that is added to the budget is 80,000 a year, so I think it is around 400.
Okay, so that was kind of the clarity I needed. Was the 250 that is referenced in N87, N something? N, how about glasses? N87. In N87, is that separate from the BAU amount, or is it in addition to? I wouldn't want to say they're the same numbers, or you can't spend it twice. So I just wanted to ensure that they're different pockets.
The 250 was from N87, that didn't get spent.
But that's not included in the BAU figure that you just quoted? Just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you for that.
Right.
Second question, if I can, Madam Chair, just on process, so to the city clerk or city manager, I guess, whether this motion gets defeated or carried, it will still go to City Council for their discussion and an ultimate decision, correct?
Correct. So today, whatever is decided would still go to council. you're recommending to council, council would be adopting whatever, correct?
Thank you.
Or amending our recommendation. Councillor Carlson, are you finished with your questions at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you.
Councillor Dodick, you are next in the queue.
Okay, I will not be supporting this resolution, and part of the problem is that when the question was put to the electors, it was very simple. It says, do you support using a ward system to elect city councilors other than the mayor starting with the 2025 municipal election? Questions like that are so open-ended and can be have different meanings for different people. If it was included in there, the information that we have today, that there's going to be a significant initial outlay and a significant ongoing cost if you proceed with a ward system, I suspect that the 55-45 in favor would have flipped. Now, so in this case, I'm voting against this because of the initial costs, the ongoing cost. And part of the problem I have too is that the electors are limited to voting for candidates in their ward, whereas candidates don't have to live in that particular ward, which is really, for me, problematic. And it has been said both in debate and in material presented to us, suggesting somehow, without any evidence supporting it, that the ward system would increase electoral participation. I don't accept that as a fact just because it says that's a fact. So this is basically a summary of what I expect I will be talking about when it comes to council. So I will not be supporting this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Dodick. Councillor Carlson, you were next in the queue. Was that for debate or was that earlier questions?
No, it's for debate.
Yep, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't be supporting the resolution at this time, but knowing that it will go to council to be fully debated and discussed at council, I think it gives me some comfort there. I do appreciate some of the discussion we had at our last meeting, and one of the presenters that submitted to us even talked about that, the question about what are we trying to achieve. And that's a discussion that I think I'd like to have, because in several of the correspondence I've received about a ward system, there seems to be a disconnect in what people feel a ward system is going to achieve and what it actually can achieve or will not achieve. And I think that's a discussion I want to have with the community. What would you like to see change that you think is going to come out of a ward system? Because when I read even some of the submissions and much of the correspondence I've had, people say, well, I want somebody in my neighborhood to run. And I'm like, well, a ward system doesn't actually say that's what will happen. It could be somebody from the far north running in the far west, and vice versa. It also doesn't limit the amount of candidates. You could have 42 candidates running in a single ward and 3 in another. So I think a lot of the suppositions that people have made about a ward system aren't actual fact. And I think actually talking to the community, talking to the residents, talking to the voters and saying, what would you like, what are the barriers to participation? What are the barriers or the things you see getting in the way of good representation, et cetera? I think we might come to better solutions than just say, well, we'll do a ward system and see if that fixes it, and wait another 20 years and have people say the same things are still an issue, and we go, well, try something else. So I'd rather do the exploration of that question of what are you trying to achieve? What would you like to see changed? Rather than just jumping to a solution without understanding the problem. So that's part of my debate, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be supporting this, actually for the very reasons Councillor Carlson gave in the negative, because this is the debate. This is the discussion. This is not saying that we are going to go to a ward system. This is saying we are going to create a commission, a group of Lethbridge residents who are going to be educated in these very topics that we're conversing about, who are going to have reading material, who are going to then represent the community and bring forward recommendations. They may or may not recommend a ward system. They may say, you know what, you'd actually be better suited by having full-time counselors and meetings in the evening so the public can attend. They might suggest something that we're not even thinking yet, but this is the conversation. And civic engagement is absolutely vital to our community. We spend $300,000 on a lot of things in Lethbridge. We have so many studies sitting on shelves that may or may not ever get implemented. This is a study, a commission that looks into the very heart of civic engagement. Why are there not more people voting in Lethbridge elections? Why are people not more civically engaged? How do we actually enhance and create a better democracy? These are the conversations that we, as the governing body of the city, should be leading. And this is what this resolution is about, having that conversation. And we don't know what, as I said, what recommendations might come back out of this. And if there's something we need to slightly adjust in what is going forward, then let's do that rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater on this. So I will be wholeheartedly supporting this because I believe in democracy and civics and engagement and conversations with the public. I will turn the floor back to Councillor Middleton Hope to wrap everything up before the vote.
Can I ask a point of clarification, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Because your debate didn't actually connect with what I thought the resolution was in front of us. The resolution isn't explore, it's to do the conceptual plan, and some of the mandate and outcomes that were listed in the presentation are not just let's have a conversation. The actual mandate was, what was the ward system going to look like? How many wards are there going to be? So maybe I'm completely misunderstanding. Is this a community conversation about the possibilities and the thoughts, or is it actually what was presented in this plan with a mandate and outcomes to do the ward system? Because that's what was presented in my package, not a community conversation, unless I misread it completely.
I'll ask Ms. Hilford to comment on part of it, and then I will comment as well.
Thank you. I would say it is a community conversation with the commission leading it. So it's a public member-led commission talking to the community about all those components. Do they want a ward system? If they do, what does it look like? Do they want full-time council? How many staff? All those components.
Okay, so,
and coming back to council with a report.
If I can, it says the commission's mandate is to report with council with recommendations on the ward model, a ward model with the number of wards, the number of councillors per wards, the type of model, the boundaries, the staffing, right? So that's a predetermined outcome. We're saying it's a ward system. Tell us what it looks like, not a community conversation about what do we want to achieve. So I'm just, what was presented in the report and what was debated are two different things in my mind. If it's a conversation, it's an expensive conversation, but it's a conversation, I may be able to support that. But if it's, here's the mandate of the commission to go, and so I'm confused.
If I can add, if you're looking at attachment 1, there's a note that says below is for example only and at the discretion and decision of council and or the commission. So that was like a mandate that council could possibly adopt in the ward commission bylaw, but the mandate would be up to council to what they want to put in the mandate. It would have to be adopted for the commission to lead.
This is just the first step. There's a lot of other places where we can make those adjustments if this moves forward.
Thank you for that clarification.
I also,
Councillor,
I will also make sure that I understand exactly what this is. The recommendation is very specific about spending $300,000, and that's the recommendation contained in the resolution. So that definitely is in there, at the 300,000 in this recommendation that I am not voting for. That's correct, isn't it?
it is up to 300,000.
Yes, I did put that in there as to give council an idea of what it could possibly, the expense could possibly be if you're looking at a commission. Council doesn't have to go with a commission. That was just an avenue that, you know, I've seen in other municipalities, but they could go with whatever they want and give whatever budget they deem would be appropriate.
Am I hearing from the floor a friendly amendment of up to 297,000? Would that make you a little more comfortable that we may or may not spend it, but we know we have that budget? And then again, step by step, we have different places, pinch points where we can make slight adjustments. The commission has been suggested at this point, but even that is not set in stone. This means moving forward with the process.
It still says 300,000, so if you're friendly amendment won't be coming from me.
I was thinking more, Councillor Carlson. That was one of your concerns, is the money. Would an up to in the resolution make you feel a little better?
I think it makes sense to add that, but I don't think it's going to sway me.
That's okay. Some of us like the community having conversations. Oh, sorry. Councillor Middleton, Hope, to close.
Well, I'd like to put my nickel's worth in first, Madam Chair. Thank you. I find it curious that that Councillor Dodick takes a run at the cost when, if I'm not mistaken, it was Councillor Dodick who raised the issue in regards to the bridge and the third crossing, which our administration is going through a very fulsome review, which I would expect would probably be fairly expensive as well. So I'm sorry, I don't buy the argument that the $300,000 to conduct an examination of whether or not we go to a ward system, and if we do, what type of ward system we might consider. I don't think that's out of bounds. I think whatever it costs, it costs. And I think it's something that we've received a direction from. One might say that 45% voted against it of those that did vote, but 55% voted in favor of it, or numbers to that effect. And I take that as a clear indication that the public wants us to explore this and explore this fully. Whether or not it's prepared for 2025 or 2026 when the next election comes is another matter. It may take longer than that, and we may not go in that direction. However, what are we trying to achieve here? We're trying to achieve an examination of a process that is used widely across Canada. It is not necessarily a better process, but it is a different process, and for some, that difference is a challenge. It has been identified in the information that's been provided to us that it is a fulsome examination. It is a representative examination of the way in which we cast our democratic vote, and I support that. And I think that the work that Ms. Hilford and her staff have done to get us to this point are commendable, so thank you for doing that. I think this moves us in the right direction, and if you haven't already guessed, although not as passionate as Chair Croson, I certainly support this initiative. And if there are any other additional comments?
Well, you mentioned my name in your
Yes.
discussion, so I'm going to have an opportunity to rebut that. There seems to be a misapprehension about my position.
Councillor, you requesting the opportunity to speak?
Yes. And the reason
please go
is because Councillor Milton Hope made representations about something dealing with my conversation about the bridge, which was inaccurate, and I want to make sure that that is clarified and corrected on the record. So request to speak on that point.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. The official business resolution that I brought with respect to the bridge was simply to deal with, to see whether the Chinook Trail crossing was still going to remain the only crossing, as opposed to considering what many years ago was taken off the table, which was a more southerly crossing. The reason for that was because at that time it was made very clear that the provincial government would not pay for a completely in-city bridge, and so that the taxpayer would have to pay 100% of the cost. If it was a further southern route that could be at least considered as a ring road, there could be participation from the province to the grants. So it's not that I support a bridge in terms of the cost, because frankly, the cost of the bridge, based if you were 100% tax funded, it simply would not be affordable. So my resolution was just to see if the infrastructure department of the city of Lethbridge would consider the further south one as a potential option, which would then allow the city to obtain or potentially obtain provincial funds. So in nowhere have I said that I support a bridge, whether it be at the current location or even the southern one. It was just a question that was asked of the infrastructure to see whether or not that was still a possibility. So in terms of whether I support the bridge or not, I certainly would not be supporting it if it was 100% tax funded. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you for your point of clarification, but we'll get back now to the vote. We have on the table the resolution before us. The question has been called. All in favor? And opposed? So this will go forward to council as not recommended, but it will still go forward to council. And I imagine we will be having a similar debate at council when this comes forward on theirs. We move now to 6.2, which hopefully will be... Yes.
Just one quick question on this. Will all the, because sometimes in the submissions from committee to council, there's not all the information available. Folks have to go back and search meetings. Will all of the information about the timeline, the ward system, expenses, will all that be accompanied in the documentation going to full council? Just to ensure that they're all up to speed, even though most of them are here.
But yes, it will. And I will also be requesting as chair of this SPC that it not go on consent agenda, that this go into submission or presentation. I'll talk to Ms. Hilford, and the Agenda Review Committee, of course, will have final say on that. But because of the importance of this conversation, we are recommending that it be an agenda item, not a consent agenda item, with all the appropriate information that any of our colleagues need for the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Right. So we'll move now to 6.2. That is a verbal submission. So from myself, just a reminder that as the Governance Standing Policy Committee, it is our responsibility to bring forward ideas for professional development for our colleagues. So council has a responsibility to do professional development and training throughout their 4-year term. We do have some professional development coming up through the work of the city manager. There's some online classes and different things that are coming up for city council, but we need to think of other possibilities. So this is an opportunity for a conversation. Is there training that we didn't have during the orientation, or training that since the orientation you've seen a need for? What would you like to see? And then as the governance SPC, we can work to schedule that in for the rest of our colleagues and make those recommendations to council. So open discussion on this. The resolution is just to have a conversation, and then to accept the conversation basically as information. Now you're all quiet.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Here's a thought. Are there any subject matter experts on ward systems versus at-large systems? I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone. We could get some good discussion going in chambers. We might even be able to fill chambers with interested citizens who want to actually understand about a ward system and what it can or cannot achieve, or what their expectations versus reality is. I'm just throwing it out there that it may be a way to achieve community conversation without doing a formalized process for $300,000. Just a thought.
A reminder that this is professional development for council. It's not always open to the public. And I think that's what the commission was professional development for the community on award system. But I will note that, and I'll take it to our agenda meeting for the SPC. Anyone else have any ideas? If not now, please email them to me. And that goes for any members of council, not just the committee members.
Madam Chair, recently attended a Green Acres strategic planning retreat, and we had Councillor Dodick, maybe you can remind me, the name of the topic. It was intergovernmental relations, I believe I'm trying to recall as well. It was dealing with advocacy, how to achieve your goals and hopes and dreams with other orders of government, but it doesn't have to be just limited to that. Different partners in the region, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I found the session to be very intriguing. I can offline, I can give you a contact person to discuss. It was quite an intriguing discussion and opened our eyes to some unconventional or previously unconsidered avenues of how to approach things. So that was one. It was about intergovernmental relations or advocacy. I think that is something that we should always be open to learning about. And then perhaps, I'm not sure if we have anyone at the City Clerk's office who could maybe remind council or committee members of previous professional development that council has undertaken in the past that may or not be of interest to council going forward.
Okay, and you will email to myself the name of the person who did the presentation at Green Acres?
Yes, I can give you the name of that person as well. There's a presentation, but there may be other. Council has used other folks in the past, but it was very top of mind for me because it was a great presentation and discussion.
Okay. Following up on that, Mr. Westerson, is there an easy way, either through council's EA or through the city clerk's office, to create such a list, or do we need to rely on past council's memory, which is never really that good?
Madam Chair, if I may. I believe a couple years ago we brought to governance a similar list when we were looking at the council orientation policy, and Mr. Sarsfield does have that list, so it should be easy to get to. I don't know. Do you have anything to say, David, on it? We do have it, though.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Palladino, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, Councillor Dodick, Councillor Middleton-Hope, anything you'd like to learn on?
Yeah, one thing, the Municipal Government Act is such a dry document, but sometimes I feel that we don't get into it to the depth that we should be in terms of what our duties and obligations are under it. And if there is a way to be able to maybe in a short fashion have some sort of refresher course that just really highlights those sections of the Municipal Government Act that deal with our duties and responsibilities, as well as the duties and responsibilities of those that we interact with at City Hall. Like I said, it's a dry document, but sometimes we lose sight of it, and I would like somehow that comes to the forefront and just be reminded of it, perhaps on an ongoing basis. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. Councillor Middleton-Hope.
Thank you. Perhaps Mr. Lowen could be engaged to provide that very fulsome discussion in response to Councillor Dodick's comment about. He's right beside you. You could ask him. I can't. I have to go through the city manager. I mentioned too in earlier today, Chair Crowson, in regards to I guess the need for council to be all on the same page in regards to providing for constructive feedback to the city manager. So that process might be one of those training opportunities that you talked about.
Okay. And Councillor Schmidt-Rempel and Councillor Palladino, anything you would like to add on your wish list?
I would just add that I've got a list of different classes that I've been making a note of since we started on council, and I'll certainly email those so that those could be shared and looked at.
And Councillor Palladino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Further to Councillor Dodick's comments, I know that the Oldman River Regional Services Commission does offer courses to Subdivision and Development Appeal Board members and probably MPC members, but we won't need that. But I bet you they could be convinced to provide courses on the Municipal Government Act at a reasonable fee, if any. I know they have a classroom set up in their building with a big screen, and they have put on these workshops, so it might be something to consider. Thank you.
Another one that was suggested to me, thank you, Councillor Palladino. Another one that was suggested to me is a course on public engagement, best practices, how to do it, because we all would love the public to be more engaged, but what are we doing to meet them where they are? What are we doing to actually get the public engagement that we know we want, but aren't always getting? Any final wrap-ups? All right,
Acting Mayor, the city manager is in the queue.
go ahead, Mr. Brierly.
Just, you alluded to it, Acting Mayor, at the beginning, just some of the stuff that is already scheduled. There is a kind of Electric 101 because of council's role as a regulator with the Lethbridge Electric Utility. There is a course on off-site levy, how all of that works and calculated coming forward, as well as Transportation Master Plan, which is fairly massive and comprehensive plan. So all of those are already scheduled for council, so may be of use.
And that is the other thing, as you're sending me ideas, give me some sense of how often are you looking, or give the committee some sense of how often. Once a month, once a quarter, because I know we have in the past scheduled some of these, and then people have said they're coming, but lives change. So an idea of how regularly this would be able to be scheduled in would be helpful. Any further conversation on the topic? If not, it is Councillor Carlson's.
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, I did have one thought. At one point, and I don't believe it was in respect to our SPCs, I believe it when we did our COVID recovery committees, and we had about 4 different committees working on different silos of COVID recovery. We actually created I guess an executive committee of each of the chairs of those 4 committees that met as an executive overseeing it all. Similar to that, there's not a lot of connection, aside from many of us sit on several different of the SPCs, between the SPCs. And while I think it's great that we at Open, no, we're not Open and Effective, we're Governance SPC now, is talking about professional development, I think it might be beneficial and incumbent on us to send an email at least to each of the chairs of those different SPCs to maybe ask their committees, like maybe audit has a different thought of what they would like to see as PD, or might be more applicable to them, just because it falls in our bailiwick, but I think maybe asking the chairs of each of those committees to put PD on their agendas for their next meeting so that they can also say, oh, we'd actually think this would be appropriate. Just a thought.
Well, as it is your motion, why don't you amend your motion to add that as part of the motion? Because the motion that I have right now is Council Professional Development verbal. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee receive the Council Professional Development verbal as information, and be it also resolved that the SPC send an email to each of the chairs of the other SPCs asking them to put professional development on their agenda and send any requests to governance.
That sounds exactly what I would have written had I written it.
Westerson will make that sound much more smarter-ish.
Right, or Mr. Westerton, did you get something? Excellent, thank you. Thank you.
So since it really was your amendment and we haven't actually voted on it yet, are you friendly with your own friendly amendment?
I am very friendly with my own amendment. We had coffee earlier. We chatted about high school and college days.
Might be a conflict of interest if you're taking your own motion and amendments for coffee.
Well, it was just upstairs.
Councillor Dodick, legally, can he do that?
Yes. As long as there isn't quorum, I'm good.
All right. We're just waiting for Mr. Westerson to change the amendment and return to his chair. So I hear there's another hockey game tonight?
No, it's Oilers in Calgary.
This is not the crowd? Is it going to rain on Sunday? To me, that is a bigger conversation than a hockey game. Okay, thank you, Mr. Westerson, and everyone who got us our amended resolution up. So we now have, be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee received the Council Professional Development verbal as information, and further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee direct the chair to request the chairs of the other standing policy committees to identify potential council professional development opportunities and forward them to the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting of June 23rd, 2022. Now, the nice thing is, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel is a chair of one of the SPCs, and she is here. Councillor Dodick is a chair of one of the SPCs, and he is here. And the only other chair of an SPC who isn't here is Councillor Campbell. So you guys can expect to get emails if this passes. Councillor Carlson.
Excellent. Unless there's anything further, Chair Crowson, I will call for the vote.
Perfect. The question's been called. All in favor? Now, because I have the motion up, I can't see who voted. But I'm going to assume it was unanimous unless I hear somebody yelling at me
Unanimous
that it wasn't.
vote, Acting Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Westerson. So we'll move now to a motion regarding our closed meeting. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed meeting discussions with respect to the Chief Administrative Officer, City Manager, performance review process remain confidential pursuant to sections 25, Local Public Body Confidence, and 24, Advice from Officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And further be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council adopt the identified process at Council's closed meeting of June 7th, 2022. Councillor Dodick, this is your motion on the floor.
Yes, I believe it's self-explanatory. Unless there are any questions, I would call the question.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. That brings us then to adjournment. Councillor Middleton Hope, I know you have another thing to get to, and I think we got done in plenty of time for you to get to your next activity. So thank you all, and
Thank
we'll
you, Madam
see
Chair.
you in June. Thank you, Mr. Westerson. Thank you, Ms. Hilford, and everyone else, Ms. Brown, and everyone who helped us.